All right, let's go to Dan from Florida.
Okay.
Dan writes in, I have a substantial amount of company stock in my 401k that has appreciated greatly. Good for you, Dan. Hopefully you're a Florida Gator fan. You know, I went to school at the University of Florida.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Alan?
I've seen your T-shirt.
Yeah, go Gators.
About 3 sizes too small, by the way.
Oh, my God. Wow. No, it's just because I'm swole. When I NUA this stock, will the cost basis add to my income such that it can change my tax bracket, or do I only pay tax at my current tax bracket percentage? I have the same question about 401k to Roth conversion monies. Will conversion monies add to my income in such a way as to possibly change my tax bracket? Thank you so much, guys. Wish I could come and see you in person, but I live in Florida. Watch your shows on YouTube almost every day.
Wow, daily.
Just binge watching
That's
YMYW.
awesome, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks so much for all I have already learned from you. Hope you keep up the amazing show. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Kind words.
Is Dan your cousin?
No, it sounds like
By the way.
But Dan brings up a very good question, because when we do presentations and teach and things like that, I think a lot of times people get confused. So he's watching the TV show.
I would agree.
You know, and we're saying, okay, well, you convert up to a certain bracket, and then you pay tax at that level, right? Let's say it's the 22% tax bracket. So, or what tax bracket are you in? I'm in the 22% tax bracket. Okay, you do a Roth conversions, you pay 22% tax. Or NUA, which I'll explain in a second. If you do an NUA, it's ordinary income tax. All right, well, I'm in the 22% tax bracket. And is that net unrealized appreciation going to be taxed at 22? So the answer is it depends. And so what you really have to look at, Dan, is what's your taxable income, line 10 on your tax return, because that's going to tell you what tax bracket that you're in. And then you will need to go to the IRS.gov to look at the brackets to see what I don't know what tax bracket Dan's in, or I don't, or else I could just tell him what the top of that tax bracket is. But for instance, the top of, let's say if he's single, let's say married. So the top of, let's say, the 22% tax bracket, the bottom of it starts at about $80,000. The top of it is at $160,000. So you have $80,000 of taxable income is the top of the 12, and $160,000 roughly is the top of the 20, or the top of the 22.
Yeah, you're married?
Yeah, give or take a couple of bucks.
Yeah, you're 168, but you're in the ballpark.
Yeah, right. And so then, Dan, what Dan has to look at is to say, okay, well, if I do a net unrealized appreciation, what that means is that he has company stock that he purchased that is in his 401k plan that has appreciated greatly. He could take the company stock out of the 401k plan, but he pays ordinary income tax on whatever the basis is. If the basis in that particular, in his circumstance is, let's say, $200,000, well, it's going to add $200,000 of income. So, yes, some of it is going to be taxed at his rate, but yes, then the other remaining is going to be taxed at a higher rate. So, of course, it would jump tax brackets depending on how much that he does. That's why looking at your taxable income and looking at whatever brackets that he's in is going to be very, very important for this type of planning.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point is you fill up your current bracket at the same rate, and then to the extent you have extra income, it's taxed at a higher bracket. So it's not like you get your current bracket on everything. Right. Right? If the amount of income is greater than what's left in your bracket. And we get this same question on capital gains, which is you're in the 12% bracket, right? And you sell a stock and you don't have to pay federal taxes on that as long as you stay in the 12% bracket. So people say, well, I've got $1 million gain on a property. Can I sell that, pay no tax? Well, just for the first 10 or 20,000 to the top of that bracket. Everything else then will be at 15 and 20%.
Hopefully that helps, Dan. Appreciate you watching us on YouTube and listening to us here at Your Money or Wealth. We got Barney from Miami, Florida.
Wow, lots from Florida.
Yeah. Well, Miami. I am 65 years old. I currently have my savings in a company ESOP in a 401k. My taxable income for 2019 is $33,000. What is my tax bracket when I sell those shares of stock? This is kind of similar to Dan in Florida.
Yeah, if it's company stock.
Yeah. There is 2,000, I don't know, call it 2,100 shares in an ESOP valued at $42.85 a share. There are 1,900 shares in 401k valued at $42.85. Should I convert these total shares into a Roth and pay the tax? I plan to take Social Security at age 67. In 2020, I turn age 66. Is it worth converting? I would invest the money in tax-exempt bonds. This way I would not have to report the income while I receive my Social Security. Okay, Barney, all over the map here.
Yeah, well, let me first do the math. So the total is about 170,000.
Okay, Barney, slow down here. Slow your roll. All righty. So Barney's 65. He's going to take Social Security at 67. Okay, so he's got a 2-year time frame.
Yeah.
And so he's got an ESOP plan. He's got a 401k plan. His taxable income's $33,000, and let's assume he's single. So if his income is $33,000 as a single taxpayer, Alan, he would be in the top of the 12% bracket. He's still got a room about, I don't know, maybe another 10,000. It's about 42-ish.
It's I think high 39,000.
39,000. All right. Well, pretty close.
Yeah.
So the top of the 12%, Barney, is 40 grand. You're at 33. So anything that you sell up to $40,000 would be taxed at 12%. If you are married and your taxable income is $33,000, you have up until around $80,000.
Yeah, but
then you have $50,000 of room.
But I will say, if you sell it inside of your plan, there is no tax consequence.
Right. So, but he's got an ESOP plan. So
Yes.
People call all these plans
I
so
know.
many different things. So
Correct.
I don't want to give advice if it's not really a true ESOP.
Yeah, that's an employee stock ownership plan, which is relatively rare.
Right, because if you have an ESOP, you're an owner of the company, and the owners of the company were trying to sell the ownership of the company to the employees.
Yeah, and often they're private companies, and you may not be able to sell them. So we don't really have enough information.
I'm guessing it might be an employee stock purchase plan, where that's something a little bit different, where he's buying company shares of stock, right? Maybe at a discount, or maybe he's giving some restricted shares. Who knows? But if it's outside of a retirement account with the ESOP, we can assume, all right, so he's got 2,000 shares at $42 a share. What's that, 100 grand?
Yeah, it's about 90.
So $100,000. So I don't know if he sells that. It depends on what the tax basis is. If it's inside a qualified plan, there's nothing. If you convert the money into a Roth IRA, then you're going to be taxed at whatever that is. So I'm going to guess if it's an ESOP of what I'm thinking that it is, it could be a qualified plan that he could potentially roll into an IRA. The 401k could get rolled into an IRA. Sell the shares of stock. Now you just buy a diversified mutual fund because you have too much risk. Then you could do small conversions throughout of that IRA into a Roth.
Yeah,
and then by the time you reach 67, right, then you're pulling some money out of a Roth or retirement account. But you can't invest in municipal bonds if it's in a qualified account. It would still be taxed at ordinary income rates.
Right, or if it's in a Roth, it's tax-free anyway.
Right.
So, and then if it's company stock, consider a net unrealized appreciation. So there's that strategy potentially. Conversion is a great idea, but keep within your certain tax brackets that make sense for you.
Right. If he's got company stock in the 401k plan, then I'm going back to Dan and saying,
Right.
all right, hey, do a net unrealized appreciation, move the company stock, pay the taxes on the basis. Now the money's outside. Then invest that in municipal bonds. Right, but if your taxable income's $33,000, you're in the 12% tax bracket where there is no capital gains tax, so a municipal bond doesn't make any sense. Barney, love you, buddy. Appreciate you calling in, but we need some more information here. We probably just confused the hell out of you and most other people.